They say it's a dry heat. But as I was walking down the streets of Scottsdale, Arizona this week, 3 minutes into my journey to an In-N-Out burger, I felt the beads of sweat form on my forehead upon consuming my double-double and fries with animal style. And then walking back the final 3 minutes to my hotel room, what I realized, everyone, was that while in fact it is a dry heat, it can create quite a bit of moisture. Everyone, hello, it's the Pete the Planner Show. That was gross.
That was incredibly gross. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Good morning.
And I was so sweaty. How can dry heat create sweat?
Well, the desert hasn't been dry this year. Las Vegas is having their wettest season in a decade.
That's and anyway, Arizona, good times. Dame, I want to report to you live. I don't know if I did. We ate in Arizona in Scottsdale at the restaurant that you and I ate at when we were there at the Fat Ox.
Did you have the spaghetti stuff?
We had different spaghetti stuff. I'm going to say it right here. I don't know who's listening to this show. Danza is. Hello, Danza. It's Thursday again already. Ha 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 ha. Danza, very clever. I'm going to say it. At the Fat Ox in Scottsdale, Arizona, I had one of the top 3 meals of my life this week.
Really?
It is maybe my favorite restaurant in the world. The Fat Ox in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Second time you've been?
Second time I've been, and it is ridiculous. So anyway, Kristen, if you ever find yourself there, the Fat Ox.
Yeah. I mean, that's tall order because some might say that you're kind of critical
about food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Food.
So it's quite the compliment.
Speaking of being critical of food, I was listening back to the show last week, Kristen, and I told Dame this. I owe you an apology. I feel like I was exceptionally hard on you about your choices around Subway sandwiches. And if that's what you choose to spend your hard-earned money on, then who am I to tell you that it's a bad idea?
Yeah, who are you? I was told, though, actually, by someone who listened to the show that you should eat crow because the two of you looked up the prices of subs after I left the show, and I was right about the $11 subs. So
who told you that?
My aunt did.
I didn't know your aunt was a snitch.
Well, she thinks you guys are really funny, so she doesn't miss the show. So.
Yeah.
Damien, both you and Kristen were featured in several national publications this week that your Moneyline team is finding itself out in the media. Kristen, you were quoted as an expert in what publication this week?
Bankrate.
Bankrate.com. There was another one too. Oh, WIBC made a news item out of our radio program last week, which is our flagship affiliate. Can you be a flagship affiliate? No one knows. Anyway, Kristen, you were featured there. And Damien, you were featured a couple times this week somewhere. Where were you featured this week?
The same one, because I'm part of the team here, and also yahoo.com. Yeah, as a writer, I don't believe I had any qualifications, because I believe Pete potentially just that was the introduction to the show was Damien Dunn. Who cares? Not related.
I went back and listened, and that's exactly what happened. Because you were like, "Who cares?"
They had no idea what to call me, so they just said, "Also a writer."
Man, I feel like I have a standing apology to Dame, and then Kristen, I feel like you're getting added to the standing apology.
Well, Pete already apologized to me earlier this week, Kristen, because he zoomed into an exec meeting and he was like, "I had no idea. I'm so sorry."
It's so hard to be in probably any meeting where a bunch of people are in a room and then you're the one zooming in. But there was something about our exec meeting this week. I was in a hotel room and Dame was in his barn with a rotting mouse in there. And everyone else was here at HQ. It is so hard to be part of an important meeting when you're on Zoom.
Weird, Damien. Wonder how that would feel.
Yeah, it was totally new concept to me. It was the first time I'd heard that somebody struggled being a part of a virtual meeting when everybody else is in one room.
Okay. Rick Swink bringing that big Rick energy. Hello, Rick. Good to be with you. Good morning. Always. At some point, I got to meet Rick Swink. You know what I mean? I feel like I want to give him a hug. All right. So before we get started this week, I need to share an uncomfortable story with you.
Worse than the desert story.
Worse? Yeah.
You may know that I tend to pay my mortgage in person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a thing I do, and I love it. So I'm not apologizing about that. But I will note this. Number one, when I did it this week, I was wearing a pair of jeans and a camouflage button-down shirt, a sort of a fashion camo, if you will. It was a look. I was serving looks. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I pay my mortgage. I'm doing it through the drive-through this time. I've switched to the drive-through. I don't go in anymore. I do it through the drive-through because I like the tube. I like when it goes mm-hmm. and it goes That's up fair. And then it comes up. I like it. But then I sanitize because who knows who's been up in that tube, And the woman, the teller or whatever, sends the tube comes down. I open it. She goes, "There you go. Thanks a lot. And thank you for your service." So I'm wearing camo.
Stolen valor.
I know. Just wait. So I'm like, I'm off guard because I'm like, I'm not a service, and I didn't want to. Go ahead.
You're not off guard. It's not your weekend.
I would let that one go. That one crossed my mind.
That was funny, and so I said, "Thank you." Was like, because I didn't know what to say, and that's when it turned into stolen valor. The moment I said thank you, stolen valor.
Is that really so bad though? Because she was trying to do a nice thing, and you didn't have to embarrass her. Nah. It's fine.
I think we've talked about it, Dame. You and I maybe have we talked stolen valor on the show before? It's my favorite thing.
This is a recurring
it's been a long
thing?
time, but I think we might have.
So, Kristen, I mean, I'm curious on your insight on this because there's all these videos online where someone is not in the military, yet for some reason they choose to dress in the military and put themselves out there as a hero or these different things. And so when the moment of exposure comes, when someone calls the person out and they're filming it, I just love I love when people yell stolen valor. Like, I don't know why. I find it to be, I don't know why. I enjoy hearing people yell stolen valor so much. So I'm driving away from the bank and I'm looking at myself in the rear view. I'm like, and I'm going, stolen valor.
Oh, that's terrible.
Anyway, good morning, everybody. We gotta hurry up though, because big day. Sorry, Jeremiah. Okay, so whose segment's going first? Kristen, you sent me yours on a thing, and then Dame's was a thing. Let's go. I'll go third. Let's do Dame first, and then Kristen second. Does that work?
Yeah.
We pull up the old clock here. Oh, I've got a good teen money story for you here too. Later between the breaks, teen money. Please remind me, Dame.
All right.
Teen money in 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And what will happen next won't blow your mind. May make you smile. Could lead to another email of anger. Who knows? We'll answer your question on the air or not. Joining me, as always, is, and this is important, and I do care, and you do too, the Vice President of Advice at Your Moneyline, Damian Dunn. No relation.
Say it louder for people in the back, please.
Everyone cares. And Kristen Elanius, Director of Education at Your Moneyline. Hello.
Hello.
All right, Dame, so you had a question this week. Have at it, my man.
My boss, about 62, is about to retire and has lamented to my colleagues about how much he saved. He also feels tethered to work to maintain his health insurance because he and his spouse are facing some health issues. Sorry about that. He's always been very frugal and just socked away as much as he could. I'm of a similar mindset, so I was surprised to hear that he's, quote, saved too much. Unfortunately, my colleagues aren't very financially minded, so when I asked what he could mean by that, they say something vague about him being in a higher tax bracket or needing to take out more than he wants to annually. I assume they're referencing required minimum distributions, but I didn't think that started until age 72. They're now all very careful not to save too much and warn me against my frugal saving habits. They say ultimately good savers get punished by the system. I wonder if his regret is centered around making too many sacrifices throughout his life for the sake of saving and now facing health issues, realizing he could have enjoyed life more as a younger man. But I was also wondering if are real financial reasons why I shouldn't try to max out my retirement accounts and just stick with saving around 20% starting around age 30.
What? First, I mean, this is where people get bad advice from coworkers. This is this is the epicenter of it all. From the boss. Oh, I got too much money. Thanks, Gary. All right, so Kristen, how do you begin to tackle this thing?
I think I need to be very careful here because I can quickly turn into a hater reading this question. I know. But I think that what's really happening here is a group of people who don't want to put any more money towards saving or make any short-term sacrifices when it comes to their spending are using an anomaly as justification to not save more for retirement because their boss is an anomaly and this might not even be true.
Yeah, Dame, it's like the local kid is a good punter and gets a scholarship. And then the middle school punter's parents are like, this is why we're not saving for college. This is exactly why. Right?
Yeah. I don't know if you remember way back when you used to talk to individuals in different employment environments. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. It doesn't take long to find some people have some serious misunderstandings about how finances work and how savings works and what a healthy mindset is towards preparing for retirement. And frankly, sometimes the hard work and sacrifice it's going to take to get there. And so when they see stories or hear anecdotes like this, it just adds fuel to their fire about, see, it doesn't make any sense. I've got to go out and buy that new whatever. And I don't need to put it away for retirement. So I think Kristen's exactly right. People are hearing what they want to hear to justify their own behavior. But in this case, there's a few different layers there that we could go.
Yeah, I find that intergenerational financial advice at work either goes really well or really poorly and probably nowhere in between. If the message is, hey, I got all this money, I don't know what to do, and now you guys should make sure that you don't have too much money. Like that's just terrible advice. I just can't think of anything worse because of the context of this person's life. Maybe they had health challenges or they didn't have kids who had to go to college. Like none of that makes sense. So to the emailer who emailed you, Dame, I would say, yeah, don't change what you're doing. I mean, look, we've talked about it on the school. Some people have regret on how much they saved, but that's not a function of a financial life. That's more of a character and values issue. It's not a financial component.
Pete, I think this brings up an interesting question on a comment that you just made. At what age are you and I too old to give advice to the people that work with us?
That's a great question. Let's go to
43.
Kristen for comment. What was it?
43.
So last year?
Last year. All right.
Wait, time out. Do we look younger than 44?
Yeah.
So you thought we were 43 or was the joke it was last year?
That was the joke. Sorry, I missed it.
I thought she was like thinking we looked young. That's a great question. You know what? And I'll say there's a couple angles to this. One of the complexities of giving mass financial advice for a decade and a half is that if it goes really well and your path does continue, at some point in time, you just simply don't have some of the same challenges that the people you're serving do. And the advice starts to seem a little bit weird. If I'm screaming at you about your debt and that you're not eating the right, pantry staples to get out of debt, yet I'm flying on a private jet, it starts to ring a little bit hollow. Kristen, I'm going to give you a second chance to answer the question, and probably with your serious answer. Do you think at some point in time, people of a certain age can't connect with someone who's 20s and their 30s about their financial decisions?
I don't know if it's as much about age as about how old someone was or where they were in their career during big milestones. Because I think there's a lot to learn from someone who had to really grind during '08. I think I could learn a lot from someone who was in their working years then. But if you're someone who's kind of hit, which the next segment we'll talk about some timelines, but if you're someone who's hit some good timelines along the way, then it's a little bit more difficult to take financial advice from you, I think.
What if you're somebody who's in their mid 40s but still wears fashion camo so you can play down and relate a little bit better to younger coworkers?
That's the ticket.
Hello, fellow youths.
Exactly.
I think, I think with empathy and observations as opposed to judgment, I think it can extend. But I think it's naturally difficult for an aging person, and I'm speaking, of course, of Dame and I, to fully grasp what it is to try to run finances in a person's early 20s. I mean, we're pretty good. I mean, we're pretty good at it, but that's a fair question, Dame.
I think
I'm sensitive to it.
It kind of goes both ways though, because when I got into the financial industry, same as you, we were young, and I don't know about you, but I had a serious case of imposter syndrome, thinking I'm young. There's no way that somebody in their 50s is going to listen to some kid who doesn't have any idea what it's like to be out in the real world. And so maybe the takeaway actually is that people are most comfortable usually talking with somebody within a certain range of their own age about their finances, just because there's some familiarity there.
That's so true. Kristen, I mean, early in your career, which, I mean, you're relatively still much younger than us. Do you ever struggle with giving someone in their 50s advice about their retirement given that you don't have your own experience with retirement?
Yeah, of course. And I think that it works both ways, because when you were talking about an older generation talking to a younger generation or vice versa, you also can't force the recipient to take what you're saying as fact or gospel. So that's the other thing too, is people only are willing to hear as much as they want to hear sometimes.
Excellent. Here's what we're going to do. Coming up after the break, Kristen, you're going to talk about how someone deals with their financial life as their school continues, and how you have to make decisions early in your career to get out of the debts you find yourself in, which sort of relates to this as well. And then finally, in the show today, I'm going to talk about an inheritance. How soon should you talk to your parents or family if you think you're going to get one? All that's next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Random Facebook user comments Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the days of the week.
I don't know what any of that means. All right, guys, want to hear a story?
Yes. But really quickly, I didn't know if this was too much for radio, but again, here we are on the podcast. A few years ago, one of you made the comment, I think, on the show that was if you're the person who saved too much for retirement because either you saved too much or you expired too early, is that really a win though? To say oh man, I saved too much because I didn't live as long as I thought I would. That's the best case scenario in one of those situations, is you expire early. So is that so good?
Yeah, that was me. It's it's the idea of you're only proven right if you die, and that's not the prize you want, right?
No.
Yeah, I hate that. I mean, again, I try not to, in the workplace, I try not to talk about my financial life because contextually it's just different than a lot of our other coworkers. And so and not because I make a lot of money, it's just because of family dynamics, because of my age, how old my kids are, how I grew up. And so, man, that's tough. Oh, Andy came into the show intrigued by fashion camo. So, you know, it was like a casual dress shirt that had a light green camo pattern. It was tasteful. It didn't have any patches or.
It was tasteful. There was no rank on it. It was
Right.
fine.
I mean, what's worse, a fashion camo or like a fashion military jacket with like a pellets and those sorts of things?
I think those were cute, but I don't get to speak for the community. So.
All right, Kristen, are you telling me if I show up at our reunion this year in October with a fashion military jacket, like a senior leadership position jacket, you will look at it and go, "That's cute."
I think it can be worn well, yes.
Damn, this has got to happen, right?
We're getting swag is going to be in the BDU sense of we're just everybody's getting ranked and camo. That's what we're getting.
Sitting in my living room this week prior to going to Phoenix, and my daughter says to me, "Hey, I'm about to request an app from you. Can you approve it?" I was like, "Okay, sure, whatever." So it comes over because I don't know if you know how this works, Kristen. Anytime Ollie wants to download an app on her phone, I have to approve it digitally. Like this is a thing. And so it's a mechanism of the family share plan. And so she sends it over. The app comes to me. Klarna. She wants to download a buy now, pay later app on her phone so she can make a down payment on the makeup she wants to buy and then pay it off over the next few months. And I go, Klarna? She's like, yeah, a lot of my friends are using it. And Sarah's like, what's that? Mrs. Planner, sorry. And I was like, well, it's a buy now, pay later. And Mrs. Planner just loses it. She's like laughing. She's like, Ollie, you have no idea what you've
done.
Just done. And she's like, what? And I'm like, Ollie, that's the worst thing in the world. Like, I would have rather you come to me with a face tattoo home from middle school today. This is a horrible thing. She's like, oh, you're not going to make this a radio segment, are you? And I was like, oh, you bet I am. You bet I am. There's buy now, pay laters going through the middle school.
Nice.
You need to make a note of these clips so that you can like put them together and give them to her like when she gets married or like graduates from school or like some milestone, because that would be so fun.
So Kristen, here's what we're doing. I was going to do it today, but it's the first week of school. We are going to have you give her a talk. And it's going to be a segment of this show that we're going to clip in. So we're going to welcome her onto the show. We'll do it one day when she's at home. And you're going to talk to her about why Klarna is a bad idea because she can't take it from the old man. She needs to take it from Aunt Kristen.
Can we play like really inspiring music underneath so it's like they're just walking down the beach together and they're having this deep, conversation. Ollie won't be able to hear it. It'll just be,
All right, let's move on.
Excellent.
Kristen, I'm just going to set you up. Are you going to do your thing?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm basically just going to read the headline and then we'll talk because it came from a news article, but the talking points are kind of organic. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
I'm just thinking here, Christy, do you just want to come back and lead us off and intro the segment?
We've done this. Please don't do that to me.
At this point, you're a professional. You've been quoted at bankrate.com.
Yeah, but I had time to think about that.
You're basically Gene Chatsky at this point.
She has no idea who that is.
Gene's great. Gene's one of my favorite financial experts out there. It's not just because she follows me on Twitter. Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show, answering your money questions. And sometimes we even answer questions you didn't know you had. Kristen Elanius, Director of Education at Your Moneyline, found a piece this week, wants to share it with us. Kristen, what is getting you excited in this piece that you're sharing today?
So I saw this article titled 3 Crucial Steps That Helped a 31-year-old veterinarian pay off $247,000 in student loans in 5 years. So like, obviously I had to click on it because that's what it's there for. It was clickbait. And it
First, I would like to thank him for his service. Yeah, that's incredible.
So it was the 3 things that he and his wife did to pay off this 6-figure student loan, this $250,000 student loan debt in less than 5 years. And I want to preface all of this by saying that I am so proud of them. I think that this is great. I think that they have changed financial wellness for potentially generations, but I do not like this article.
Okay, I hate these types of articles. I just want to go on the record here. I find they're like, what a 27-year-old does to bring in $750,000 of passive income a month. And it's like, I'm not reading that. So I want to say before you get going on this, I have some mea culpas here. My daughter would love to be a vet, right? Would love it. I may have, since the early age of Doc McStuffins, discouraged her from that path because of the financial outcome of getting a school in veterinarian medicine. So I just want to get that out there, that I have I have 2 vets that are in my family, and I have discouraged my daughter from that path. So now she wants to be an anesthesiologist. So, but anyway, go ahead. What did Sean Huery and his wife do to get out of $247,000 of student loans?
So the big thing they did was that they bought 2 houses over this time period, and one of them they sold, profited $128,000 and applied it directly to the student loans. So
why can't everybody do that?
Well, I mean, why can't there be a tulip mania real estate market that everyone can take advantage of and do that?
I'm just like, so that comes back to when you just happen to go through life, sometimes yields really great results for you, and sometimes it doesn't. Because like we talk about this, there's a group of our coworkers who were coming right out of school in like the 08, 09 timeframe. They did not have this opportunity, first of all. And second of all, even if they did, you still have to have money to buy the house. It's not just like, hey, I have this asset that I just stumbled upon, decided to put another 20 grand into it, which he had to do, by the way, and then sold it in like the housing market mania that we've seen over the last 2 years.
I just don't understand why these articles are written. Like, what's the point? There's nothing anyone can do. Why can't everyone do this? Come on.
Now, the one of the pieces of advice he gave was really good, in that they avoided lifestyle creep. So when his income changed, he was making a much lower wage, which still relatively high, but he was making a much lower wage. And then he moved from, he went from a private practice to a vet hospital. So he was making bonuses. So his income like tripled in this time. The kicker is that his bonuses were twice as much as what his first salary was, which makes it a lot less impressive, because his salary was $75,000 at the private practice, and he was making up to $132,000 in bonuses at the hospital.
So there is some, I mean, honestly, like looking at your career, who employs you, income opportunity, because I'm sure at the private practice there was some benefits. I mean, there's a reason that it was a good idea, but then he got pretty practical. Yeah, I mean, you almost have to do that. For whether it's dentistry or being a vet, I think you have to do a similar thing.
Well, and I'm sure that there were a lot of sacrifices that came with that too, because when you're making $75,000 at a private practice, which I don't know if vet pro is like a standard term, but I have a friend that like we've talked about like comp that way. But like when you go from a private practice to a vet hospital, I'm sure he's like on call. I'm sure that the situations he sees are much more emotionally taxing. So like, it's not like those dollars didn't come without sacrifice. So I do think that point of the article is very commendable, is deciding you needed to make a move that maybe you did or didn't want to make, and it changed the trajectory of your financial life. Damn. You've said nothing.
Yeah, I thought it was frozen for a second.
It was a great conversation. It was kind of like when you zoom into a meeting and you're the only person not in the room. It's kind of what it was feeling like. But Kristen, you and I discussed this. A lot of the issues that people face around getting debt taken care of require changes that aren't going to be comfortable, because you've gotten yourself to a position that is you can't fix it. You just can't fix it with where you're at, with the income that you've got. And so there are a few things that have to change. You got to find a way to make more money, or you got to cut back on your expenses. And if you can do both, even better. But This is definitely on one of the ends of the bell curve for people to get out of their debt. So as inspiring as this story may be to some people, it's going to seem wholly unreasonable to a whole big swath of other people, and it almost does probably as much of a disservice than it does as an encouragement.
All right, I want to go a different direction here. I mean, since he paid off $128,000 of the $247,000 in debt via selling a home, let's subtract that off. So that leaves him $119,000 that he's paid off. Okay, so he did that in 60 months. Let's see what that actually looks like. So he still paid off just under $2,000 a month for 5 years. I mean, that is an impressive effort. Yes, Kristen, to your point, the big chunks of bonuses that did that were really helpful. And while his effort and purpose is sustainable, I don't think the true mechanism of sacrifice, I just don't know. This seems like such an apple and oranges headline to article. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and the reason I kind of wanted to talk about it today is because it looks like we might actually enter repayment, which I might eat those words by the time that this airs, but it looks like we might actually enter repayment on student loans. And I love these articles because I would love for them to bring people together and be like, hey, we can do this. Student loans are not this impossible thing. But when you read something like this and you're the average borrower who's just trying to make it month to month, and now you're trying to reintegrate a $300 payment into your life that you haven't paid for 2 years, this almost makes being free of student loans feel like it's unachievable, which I don't want that to be the takeaway for everyone else.
Well, that's why, I'd say the mindset is scalable, right? This is the idea that Sean with a W, which is the right way to spell Sean. The reason that he made all of these decisions because his priority was to get out of debt. I mean, the reason he saw the opportunity to sell a home at $128,000 profit was just for that. So that is a reasonable takeaway. If something is your priority, then all the opportunities that come along feed that priority. So I think that's great.
The other thing that he did, just to note, sorry, Dame, I wanted to make sure we get the third one in before the end of the segment, is that he refinanced his student loans twice. But when you're making such large payments on your student loans and you're only moving the interest rate by maybe 1%, I don't think that refinancing is the answer. So that's the other thing that for the average viewer or reader, don't think that you have to refinance your student loans to be rid of them.
Yeah, I think refinancing your student loan debt rarely works out the way you think it's going to. It's one of those things where you're fresh out of school, you don't refinance. Just sounds smart. Oh, I lowered my interest rate, but what are you really doing? And interesting takeaway from the article. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Coming up after the break, we're gonna let Damien talk, and he's gonna talk about my topic, which is when you know you're gonna get an inheritance because someone sort of whispers about it. How many of those details should you learn about prior to the inheritance heading your way? All of that is next right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner.
I'm sorry, Damien.
Dave's on a Zoom call.
In my defense, ever since the week that we had 2 awkward silences in one episode, I've been gun shy about it. I'm somebody's got to talk or we're going to get in trouble.
Who would you get in trouble from?
I don't know.
Oh, there
you
go.
I guess.
Yeah, you're damn right. No, sorry. Oh, now I'm going to have to put explicit on the show.
Oh, man.
Hey, if there's any kids in the car, what I meant was the Hoover Dam is in trouble because of what is going on at Lake Mead. And so you need to talk to your parents about climate change. Jacob says I'm on mute. Am I on mute?
Nope.
Mm-mm. Damien is, though.
Nope.
Oh, Dame was on mute.
Kidding.
Okay.
What were you going to say, Damien?
Who cares?
Doesn't matter.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I honestly couldn't tell you what I was going to say.
Oh,
must have been a
So
lie.
it was deep. Yeah. I do appreciate Kristen being out there submarining news stories that I had up in the queue, though.
Jacob
with
says
student loan repayments and whatnot.
Oh, sorry.
Jacob's joke was about mute Zoom calls.
Oh,
Sorry, Jacob. Brian Pinkins joins us. Hello, Brian, Mr. Pinkins. Okay. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show for my Indianapolis Business Journal column this week. I answered an email from a reader. And so actually, sometimes when you send us an email and ask Pete at PeteThePlanner.com, sometimes it's on the radio show. Other times I'll just write about it in the newspaper. And if you don't subscribe to that newspaper or you can't get behind the paywall, your financial life will remain ruined while I solve the challenge for someone else. So the question is, Dear Pete, I'm 32 years old and come from a very wealthy family. I'm told I will eventually inherit millions of dollars, but I'm starting to feel like this knowledge is a distraction. I actually appreciate that, right? I think about it way more than I want to, yet I don't know many of the details of the situation. I obviously want to lead a comfortable life both now and in the future, but I'm not sure how to think about the future. I hope I don't sound like a brat. It feels like one of the situations in which, unless you've been in this position, it's hard to understand how it grinds on you. So that's fascinating, right? Like, I buy this. Like, I buy this idea if there's not a lot of details and you're promised a bunch of money, but is it a promise? Like, what are you to do? And this just simply comes from my experience, not personal experience, but professional experience. I've seen so many people on the other side of the spectrum from Eric, the emailer, and letting that knowledge impact their willingness to set money aside. So interesting.
My initial response was going to be ignore it, pretend like it doesn't exist. Like you've got to prepare for your own future and develop all the good financial habits that you're going to need as well. I still think there's something there, but then I wondered, if you knew what the future held for you, would you be more willing to take some calculated risks? You're still trying to do it on your own. You're not taking wild, crazy swings, but maybe you're on the fence about starting a business. But now that you know that it's not nearly as important for it to be successful that first time out of the gate, maybe it gives you that little push to go out and maybe achieve something truly great on your own. And I want to say there might be something there too. I don't know where to come down on this.
This is tough. Kristen, if you knew that $2 million was coming your way, but you didn't know when, how would that impact? I'm just picking a number, right? Well, how would that impact your decision-making about your own financial planning?
There are 2 ways that I might go with that. But if I didn't know any other details, I would try and plan for without it. But I would push for more details because, like, what if you're the guy from the last segment who took a job that maybe he wasn't as inclined to take, or made, you eat peanut butter and jelly and ramen to pay off your student loans? If you don't have to make some of those sacrifices because you might have this financial privilege, like, should you have to? And I don't know that the answer to that is yes. So, like, I would push for additional details so that I can make calculated decisions about my financial life.
Dame, how do you take into account the idea that the wealthy family's reality could change? And what about the priorities of the wealthy family changes? They say, you know what, I'd rather give this to a community foundation. Or what if Eric, the emailer, has a falling out, which can happen. I mean, I don't want to be like, what if aliens land and abduct Eric's family? Like, I don't want to go that route, but like on some level, hard and fast wills can change.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. I'm sure you and I could share some stories about how wills and families and second families can absolutely destroy what you may have thought your financial future looked like in really short order. But that's why I still think you need to try and plan for your own, because not only do you not know if you're going to get it or when you're going to get it, but then you don't even know what the wealth is tied up in. Maybe it's something that could go away really, really quick. Maybe it's something that's durable and will just provide income forever. unless you have those details, it's going to be really hard to say, yep, I'm good. Let's go with this route. So if you're going to get in the weeds on this. Make sure you can get as much details as you can, or as many details as you can, so you can make an appropriate decision. I am probably still of the mindset that you take care of business on your own. If you want to get some information, great, but I would just rather pretend that it probably doesn't exist, honestly. And if you yeah, maybe you can get some assistance with whatever you're dealing with from your parents or whoever the inheritance is coming from now, if you want to take some of those swings at it, if you're sure you're going to get it. But I don't know. I'd probably pretend like it doesn't exist. I know Kristen's different.
Now, Kristen is a very direct person. Kristen, how do you approach the wealthy family? What do you go and say if you're Eric? How do you do that? I mean, you'd come out right and say it, but you're not Eric. How should Eric do it?
Maybe approach it from the perspective that there are probably professionals involved, financial planners, attorneys, etc., and just say that you would really like to have a meeting with said professionals on what components of the plan might affect you so that you can make plans for your financial wellness. Because I think the professionals should be on board for that. I think that in their sales minds, they're probably on board for that. So I think it's kind of a nice in. And then you also have a buffer in the conversation. It's not just you and this wealthy family member having a conversation. That would probably be where I'd approach.
I think that conversation also goes easier if you are employing your own attorney or your own financial planner. So you say, hey, I'm trying to do some legwork, trying to figure out what my future looks like. Could we have our people sit down and try and hash this out a little bit so I know how to appropriately plan for my future?
Can we have a conversation that might delve into uncomfortable?
Yes.
I'm reconsidering. Wait a second. Look, and this isn't even about copious amounts of wealth. It's just about leftover money. Can we just call it leftover money? Because then it just feels a lot less intimidating. There could be a situation in my life in which someone has leftover money, and then that leftover money goes to me, right? I have no curiosity around it. Like I almost don't want to know. Like because of Eric's point, I think there's an awkwardness and a pressure and a distraction that can come with that. And again, it's not even about copious amounts. I think truly just some leftover stuff would potentially come my way at some point in time. I don't feel like it's mine. I don't want to know anything about it. Dame, how do you view leftover money and how you are forced to think about it right now?
I think we're talking about two different things: leftover money versus life-changing money. Are you trying to equate the two, or are
no, they're different.
Two separate classes. Okay.
Well, that's a good question. I will just say this: I don't think I'm in a situation which is going to be life-changing money. I think it's just going to be leftover money. It could be significant, but I don't think it's going to be life-changing. But then you would argue, is any money life-changing if you've got a lifestyle about you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. If we're looking at the two classes as originally posed, which was the distinction I drew, unless it's life-changing, I probably don't pay attention to it or have it cross my mind on how it's going to impact my future.
Now, would you try to press to find out if it's life-changing?
No.
Kristen, what about you?
Well, I agree with the two of you, but I think it's because we have a level of financial privilege. I think that if any of the three of us didn't have, and I mean that from a knowledge perspective as well as a stability and income perspective, I think that if we didn't have either of those things, our opinion on this subject would be different.
Yeah, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I just it feels like some Faustian bargain, right? Like this idea that this knowledge is out there in front of you for decades. And then how hard, wow. I mean, tiny violins playing for the future, very wealthy people, but I don't know. I feel like it could just really wear on you. And then with my luck, if I really got caught up in that personally, the person would end up being like the world's oldest living human who would outlive me by 35 years. So Alas. Coming up after the break, we're going to cover the biggest waste of money of the week and the news. I'm Pete the Planner. This is Pete the Planner Show. That's tough. I mean, it is you're right, Kristen, though. It is like a total perspective thing. If you're in poverty or you're really struggling and that knowledge is hanging out there, but it would also be a distraction. I mean, it would also, because I don't know if you can contextualize it.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too is like, let's say there is a huge income gap between Eric, the emailer, and the person that they might inherit these dollars from. If Eric inherits these dollars as a well-established adult, like maybe even closer to retirement age, how does Eric learn to live with that money?
Yeah, because if it goes to be part of your financial plan, you don't actually learn how to live with the money. It
becomes a lottery.
Exactly. If you didn't plan for it, then it's the lottery in my life.
This is uplifting. Congrats, Eric. Your life's ruined. Your parents did well.
All Eric's waiting for is an email back. He doesn't listen to the show or read IBJ, and he's never going to know this.
Well, that's true. Okay. In the spirit of nothing, let's continue. Dame, I love that you were described in that news article as also a writer at your money line.
It was great. Yeah.
Did that hurt your feelings?
No, it was hilarious. It was great.
Okay. Because I feel like I'm to blame for that. And I had a good laugh
You're
at
totally to blame about that. Not kind of. You are to blame for that.
I mean, to be employed solely as a writer, like,
let's go.
Good for you, man.
Sure.
Oh my God. That's really funny.
You're no VP.
Whatever.
Dame, your point in the Slack channel was if the article had said no relation, that would have been a lot better.
Yeah, if they just could have continued the joke, that would have been great.
All right, let's get into.
Oh, I'm not good at liquor prices.
We'll see what happens here. Okay. And 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week right here on the Pete the Planner Show is the world's most expensive mini bottle of whiskey. Colloquially. Oh, boy. I just mispronounced it. Colloquially. I can't say that word. Kristen, can you say colloquially?
I can't.
Try it.
No. Colloquially.
Nope, I can't either.
All right, I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm going for it. Everyone, stand back. Here we go. Colloquially. Oh, let's go.
I think that's good.
Referred to as airplane bottles, 50 milliliter bottles are better known for on-the-go drink making and shot taking than for serious collecting. Time out. Having just been on an airplane a lot this week, I can vouch for that. That didn't stop this bottle of Springbank 50-year-old Campbelltown single malt Scotch whiskey from setting a new record for the most expensive 50 ml bottle ever sold. It was sold by Whiskey Auction last month, breaking the prior record of roughly something. I can't give you the number. The bottle distilled in December of 1919 was labeled and arrived with a certificate of authenticity. Okay, so this is a shot of whiskey. 50 mils is basically 50 mils, I believe, is a shot and a half, an ounce and a half. Dame, actually, Kristen, because your liquor guesses are always worse.
They're terrible.
How much does this 50 milliliters of ancient whiskey cost?
Does it cost 10 grand?
You guessed 10 grand. Friend of the show, financial wellness expert Phil Schumann weighs in on Facebook Live, also says 10,000. Hello, Phil. Dame?
Was this auction held on an airplane? Because that could possibly inflate prices.
It's a good point, especially if it was a Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have blown up pricing.
I'm going to go with $4,700.
$8,800. $8,800 for a 50 ml bottle of whiskey. Do you want to know my airplane drinking strategy?
Yes.
I don't really drink on airplanes, but what I will do is I will order a drink because these days, because of COVID, they won't open the bottles for you. And so I'll be like, oh, I'll have bourbon on the rocks. So they'll give you a glass of ice. They'll give you bourbon. And I just won't open it. I'll store it and take it home. And I've got a bunch of airplane bottles at home because they don't open the bottle and keep the cap. And so I do that. So I just get a bunch of free whiskey and take it home.
Oh, they're free because he's sitting in first class.
Okay.
That was a very subtle flex. Holy smokes.
What? But here's the thing. I'm not in first class. I'm even in Comfort Plus because of the amount of times I fly. I don't upgrade. I just buy a basic ticket. I just get upgraded.
What is Comfort Plus?
It's not first class and it's not sardine. It's like Sardine Plus.
They don't have that with Allegiant.
Pete needs the leg room.
What's in the news this week? Was that a short joke? Was that a short joke?
It was pretty abbreviated, yes.
I am a short king, yes.
Yeah. A short king.
But I have feelings. They're smaller.
Yeah. You got it for it. Yeah. Planning his budget for next month, Scott Hines doesn't know if he'll have the usual cash he needs for healthcare expenses, and recently, thanks to inflation, his higher grocery bill. That's because, like tens of millions of other Americans, he doesn't know if his student loan bill will be due. Quote, it's just been radio silence from the Biden administration. It's frustrating and stressful, says freelance artist Hines, who lives in Brooklyn and owes more than $20,000. Kristen, got a question for you. How long have we known that student loan repayments are scheduled to restart next month?
For like a year. Well, next month for months, but they've been gonna restart for like 2 years now. So
okay, so the fact that we knew there was a date they were going to restart and we haven't heard they weren't going to restart, people could have reasonably planned to start repaying their student loans?
I've been on my soapbox about it for months.
Okay.
I've been on soapbox too, but it's because I can't see over the fence because I'm shorter. Dame, this is you and I struggle with this, Dame, right? Because this is a classic setup for an I told you so. And there's really no gratification in delivering an I told you so in this scenario. There's just not. This was always going to happen. It's just like the recession. There was no chance a recession would not happen after trillions of dollars of stimulus. It was what is going to happen. And in this repayment trouble, restarting the repayment always was going to happen. And so, of course, I empathize with this freelancer in Brooklyn. But I also, it's like, yeah, man, where you been? Because this has been the score for 29 months. This is what's going to happen.
Do you know what I think Scott was hanging his hat on?
Probably an antique hat rack that is ironic.
The bowler in the corner. Yeah, you're exactly. Probably right. Loan forgiveness. If it would have came through at $50,000 loan forgiveness, he's done. 20 grand was sitting outstanding, and he could have washed his hands and walked away. But now he's got to stare in the face of restarting his student loans.
It would have been a handmade soap bought at a farmer's market that smells of fir trees.
Mm-hmm.
I love making Brooklyn jokes. I don't know. It just makes me laugh. What else is in the news?
If you and your significant other are enjoying the dink lifestyle but are thinking about adding a kid to the family, consider this next story a potential cold shower. The Brookings Institution has determined that a married middle-income couple with 2 children will spend, you'll make this a guessing game, Pete?
How much does it cost to rear children?
Yes, I don't like rear as a verb. I shouldn't have gone that direction. Sorry.
Don't rear.
Just go.
Middle-income couple, 2 kids. Youngest kid born in 2015. How much will it cost to raise them through the age of 17?
How much does it cost to rear that child for 12 years?
17. No, 17 they were born in 2015. Going to raise them for 17.
I'm going to go $525,000.
Kristen?
Less than that, but I have no basis for this.
I didn't know we were playing over under.
I have 2 dogs.
What do you got?
The number?
Yeah.
So I thought you were asking what kind of dogs.
What's in your pocket? Well, yes, the number.
I thought you were asking
What are you
kind
having
of
for
dogs
dinner
she
tonight?
had.
Hey, Dane, what are you doing
Fantastic.
next Thursday? Yeah, what do you mean what I got? Yeah.
$310,000, Pete. $310,000. The number includes housing, food, clothing, healthcare, childcare, accounts for childhood milestones like diapers, haircuts, sports equipment, dance lessons. You know what doesn't include, Pete?
Therapy?
Saving for college.
Oh, saving for. Oh, see, I had college in there.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Okay.
So like, I'm gonna be honest here. Maybe this is a good way. Kristen, you don't have you have dogs, right?
Correct.
You do not have little humans that look
I have no
remotely
humans.
like you.
No.
Okay. So you hear this story about the money situation of rearing children. This does not influence you one way or another because you think what you think. My question is, no one's going to be influenced by this article, are they?
I don't think so.
Dave,
I think,
do you think they will
want kids or don't.
No, not at all.
What else is in the news?
FDA on Wednesday approved Zynteglo, a gene therapy built from Bluebird Bio that treats patients with the blood disorder beta thalassemia, whatever. The one-time treatment, this is where it gets interesting, which helps patients who depend on regular blood transfusions face decreased life expectancy, comes at a record price of $2.8 million. It's a one-time shot, $2.8 million. The company plans to use an outcome-based agreement saying it will reimburse insurers up to 80% of the therapy for patients who still need transfusions.
That's much more expensive than the shot of 100-year-old scotch that we talked about earlier. That's all we have time for on the show this week. Thank you, Dame. Thank you, Kristen. Dame, I appreciate sometimes when you write. Sending good vibes. Good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the Pete the Planner Show. That's expensive.
Yeah. They think there's between 1,300 and 1,500 people with this disorder in the world.
Good thing we didn't put a cap on insulin prices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So never mind. Let's not open that can of.
No, let's not go.
Worms. Hi, Lee. Good. Glad you joined us with 3 minutes left of the show. Good to see you. So, is this creepy to say I saw a picture of Lee on Instagram yesterday? I was like, oh, there's Lee.
Did it have a picture of his TV though, with the backlighting and all that stuff that we were?
No, it doesn't. But can I get weird?
Well, yeah, sure.
Like Lee's a handsome guy. Like he's got this look to him. You look at him, he's handsome. I see this picture. I'm like, I don't want to look at this picture anymore. It's too handsome. Like I don't know if I'd be able to talk to him on the street. I'd be distracted. He's too handsome.
It's kind of like some guys just have it and they always do. Like your cousin's husband, who I went to school with.
Oh yeah,
He hasn't aged in 30 years.
Handsome man.
Yeah.
Kristen, aren't you glad you're not distracted by handsome men on this show?
Yeah.
I knew that's where that was going.
I mean, no, but I've often said, like, I can't imagine what my career would look like if I were handsome. It would make a huge difference.
I think so.
Dame knows my troubles. We look alike. This is what the brothers, man.
Not related.
All right, I gotta go. Sorry, Jeremiah. Kristen, I hope you have a good weekend. I have a big soccer weekend, so I've got my iPad here with my lineups on it, and I can sub girls out. It looks like I'm adding Polynesian sauce to orders at Chick-fil-A. The girls always think that's funny.
Do you hold cards up for subs?
No. I scream names. But then I've gotten to that point where I'm calling girls the wrong names. I'll be like, I'll mean Remy and I'll say Riley, or I'll mean Ollie and I'll say Molly. I'll mean Kate, but I say Katie, because this is what it is to have 13-year-old girls. Like they all have the same names.
Yeah,
I've got a Molly, an Ollie, a Kate, and a Katie. It's just like there's twins. I mean, it's just like
They probably all have ponytails and they all look like a herd of teenage girls running around the field.
So I must go. You know who's gonna have a good weekend? Lee, because he's handsome. You can't have a bad weekend when you're handsome. Yeah. You wake. Here's what happened. Here's the life of a handsome. You wake up. You go into the bathroom. You kind of just gonna glance in the mirror as you're gonna go to the bathroom, and you're like, "Look at that!" Like, that's the first thing you see. It's like he's tired, but look at that. Then you go in and wash your hands after you go to the bathroom. You look right back in the mirror, like, Yep, still there. And then that's your whole day.
Think about how much time they probably waste in a mirror, though. You and I do not suffer from that. We just make sure we still have a face.
Other than flexing, no. I mean, don't waste any time. But, here's the thing. You wonder if someone like Lee has always been handsome or is a late comer.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Because there's some people that are always handsome, and there's other people that like age into their looks,
So there's hope for us.
I don't know. I'm starting to look like the end of Benjamin Button's, or the beginning, I guess I should say, of Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Oh, he peaked in middle school. Jack Harlow's still out there getting cuter, but Lee is peaked in middle school. I feel you. I'm going to go. It's getting weird. Kristen has shut down.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
She's so uncomfortable.
I have to look in the mirror to do my hair. I cannot relate to you people.
I do want to apologize. Last week, I felt hypercritical of you. I was telling Dean Dunn,
Christy,
my brother, Christy. I was like, we were all teasing, right? But I was listening. I was like, gosh, my teasing, there was like a 90-second stretch where I was just like right on you, and I felt bad. So I apologize if I was rude last week.
Hey, maybe I'm not as soft as I thought.
That's true.
I can take
look at
it.
you getting thick-skinned. You know who's not doesn't have to have thick skin? The handsome.
Gosh, poor Lee.
All right, everybody, stay getting money.